Right, so what I want to do now, I've built up a good few ops on the YouTube space. People been calling out, yo, man, like Kingpin in the chat. Yes, big up Kingpin. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a bunch of reactions to people I've been talking about already. We're going to go and do an update on them. And I think I'm going to start with Katie Hopkins today. I haven't done anything on Katie Hopkins for like a good 2-3 weeks maybe. And, you know, the whole festival thing that was going on quiet and down. The Sun newspaper did contact me in the end, and they said they were going to run something, and then nothing happened with it. You know what I'm saying? Ban the Sun newspaper anyway, so cool. When the festival comes around, you know, something could still pop up. But for some reason, right, today, my TikTok video talking about her getting dropped from the festival has just started doing bare numbers again, like bare comments out of nowhere, as if Katie Hopkins somewhere in the algorithm is causing noise. So I just thought, let me go on her page, right, and see like what's going on. Let's just see if she's up to anything. Like, is there a reason why her name's ringing out today? And just react to, you know, let's just react to whatever else she's up to. Katie Hopkins, who the hell would take mothering parent advice from me? But here it goes. No, what? There's some things I will not even react to. Not happening. What I am fearful is going on with Vine versus Barton. Not interested in that either. What's actually going on with Michael Gove, Jeremy? I don't actually know about this stuff. This is a story I don't even know about. So, here we go. What's actually going on with Reform, Lee, Farage, Tice? Too many cocks in the coop. That's 21 minutes long. I can't be doing a 21 minutes video, but this one about Reform, I'm the most interested in. It's 20 minutes long. I'm just not watching the whole 20 minutes. We're going to do that.
Wanted to talk about Reform and Lee Anderson defecting to Reform, and I say this in terms.
I do actually want to know about this, right? It's a bit like dumb for me to get my news from her. Like, she's going to tell me the honest perspective. But when I was like doing the reactions to the Paul Thorpe videos the last couple weeks, he was highlighted that this Lee Anderson guy is an MP, Tory MP who got dropped for some reason. I thought it was tied up in this dynamic thing, but I realised it was separate. So he's now gone to Reform. Yeah. So, and we're going to do some Paul Thorpe again afterwards. He's got some videos up about Reform today. So we'll watch this one, and then we'll go and see what Paul Thorpe's saying. Shout out Chris Hayes, still here, was driving home from work. Hope you had a good day at work, mate. Hope you're going to put your feet up and enjoy the rest of the evening, night.
In terms of wanting to provide quieter context to what I think is going on, not based on headlines or other people's contents or cribbing some stuff from somewhere else, but just out of personal experience. And I think coming at it from what I know personally helps explain what's actually going on. So, Lee Anderson, bless his heart, defects from the Conservatives and joins Reform. That's been a long time in the discussions and the negotiations. He met Richard Tice, I think, in a Holiday Inn somewhere grubby. But it's been a long time coming, and there'll be a number of reasons for this. Lee Anderson was originally Labour. He was then deputy chair of the Tories, and now he finds himself in Reform. So the
headline... So that's why this is a big story, right? Man went from Labour to Tory to Reform. What does that tell you about British politics and the fact that they're all the same? Yeah, and I mean the parties here, because people get caught up in the they're all the same thing and want to throw Diane Abbott and Jeremy Corbyn in there. I'm not saying that. They're different. A few individuals that are different, right? But these parties are all the same, and the main bulk of them are all the same. How can anyone, the same person, go from any of them, from that party to that party to that party? I guess career politicians, I really don't care. But to go to a lesser known party with less chance of doing anything as well, there has to be some serious political ideology behind that decision.
noisiness is sort of saying, well, he doesn't know where he wants to be because he's been in 3 parties in the last 9 months. La, 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 la. That's not the thing.
9 months.
He was kicked out of Labour for, I think he took a digger and tried to prevent the travelling community setting up camps with a digger. I think he was expelled or whatever went on there. But you can see...
Whoa. Yeah. He physically took a digger and tried to basically attack the traveller community. Are you nuts? Are you absolutely nuts? Yeah. And a traveller community, let's keep it right. Yeah. And I'm not coming from one of these racist white people's perspective who like to weaponize the racism experienced by the traveller community against black people who experience racism, Asian people and Muslims who experience racism. But the traveller community do face racism and discrimination. So this guy is crazy, yeah? Man's actually out here attacking communities. Wild.
See that kind of instinctual... If Lee believes something's right, he's going to do it regardless. At that point, he isn't a politician, he's a regular guy. Then in the Tory party, in order to vote according to his heart and his soul... he had to resign as deputy chair in order to be able to do what he wanted to do from the back benches. And then now he finds himself at Reform. And I think the reason that took such a long time in the announcing and him arriving there was because he's not really a fan of Richard Tice. And my sense on that is that Richard Tice just doesn't feel authentic in any way. And let's just refresh that I say all of this without attacking our own. Everybody's looking for something right now. People want to find something to believe in. And if you're a Reform supporter and you've joined them and you love them and whatever, that's great. And you'll also know that I say that outside the front door, we should always hold the line. Anybody speaking out loosely on a side that wants to push people's freedoms or defend people's rights is a great thing. So this isn't just a sort of...
Shut up. What is wrong with these people, man? It's like... And again, it shows how politics is all a joke. Every party pretends, we want to push people's rights and people's freedoms because we've got to push votes and all that. But even these psychos who are far-right nut jobs, who are literally, the entire purpose of living is designed to stop people's rights, stop people's equality, still claim that that's what they're trying to do. That what they're saying is they're trying to create equality for the poor white person who is the real victim. So it's just a complete game.
Slagging off of something. It's just some articulation of basic stuff that I know or facts that I know in person. But the issue with Richard Tice, and I feel this personally, is his inauthentic nature. He's very clearly a posh boy from a posh boarding school. He was or is on the board of trustees as a posho and is an asset manager and is the son of the grandfather of the whatever. And he's not stupid. Nobody's saying that. He's quite clearly very clever and articulate, but it's not real. He doesn't feel it. It's not in his gut to know what ordinary people are thinking. It's not...
Well, it wasn't in Boris Johnson's gut either, and you was a huge fan of Boris Johnson, so whatever.
In his gut to know what it's like to be a McDonald's worker at £1, whatever it was, or a Wimpy worker at £1.40 and have your little red dungarees on. He hasn't got the grit of ordinary people, and it really shows. So when he's speaking...
To be honest, neither do you, Katie.
He says things that people want to hear, but he doesn't feel those things. And that would be why, of course, Lee Anderson called Richard Tice a Poundland or Pound Shop Nigel Farage. And it's something you see very often in the press, which is that people don't really want Richard Tice, bless him. They want Farage. They want the real deal. And what they're getting at the moment is the sort of temporary stand-in monkey. That's the sense that no one's rude enough to articulate in the way that I just have. And each time, Richard Tice has got Isabel Oakeshoft or some other, blonde posho dry humping his leg. Farage has got a couple of those around them. They've got a couple of those on GB News.
So they basically just saying, we want the famous racist. We want the famous racist who's, yeah, he says it. He says all the right racist things in the right way I like and speaks the way I like. Um, these lot are just full of shit, man.
Use the sort of posh totty. It's all very rich boy, posh boys club.
And obviously, don't get me confused. I understand. I agree with the point that the leaders of all these other parties generally have always been people who don't connect with the people, right? That's why, like, politics in this country never works, yeah? And it's not about whether they're posh or not and their background. It's not always fully about that. It's just about whether they can connect with the people. Like Jeremy Corbyn connected with the people, the only one who ever really has in my lifetime. But he's not, obviously, from their perspective, the Nigel Farage connects with their people, like connects with their people, their racist people. So he connects for them.
While speaking the stuff of ordinary people, but it's missing something real.
Racist people, not ordinary people, racist people. Ordinary racist people.
That will be why the delay in Lee Anderson joining. Now, people say, well, Lee Anderson's moved around a lot. You know why it is? It's because no political party and no element of politics whatsoever is as true as Lee Anderson is to what he believes in. He is the ordinary guy. He is the regular guy. You can feel he means what he says. I don't want travellers here. Here I am in my digger. I'm going to block them. That little Sadiq Khan, he's an...
We're going to have to actually look this guy up. I don't even know what he looks like. We're going to have to look this guy up and see what the hell he's up to. I'm seeing a lot of laughing emojis getting off in the corner. I wonder if those are laughing emojis on my side, laughing at this racist idiot, or laughing emojis who hate me calling that racism and are laughing at me. It's probably the latter, to be honest.
Islamist, he's allowed Islamists to take over London. No, I'm not going to apologise. Does what he says, is what he says. No, you don't have to agree. People say to me, oh, Lee Anderson, he praised vaccines. We don't have to agree on everything.
Oh, wow.
I have never, ever once asked anyone to agree with me. Just because you don't have to go up and down the roster of all things to go, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy? I really don't know. The point is, he is a gut guy. He thinks something, he feels it with the ordinary people, he says it, which is why I love him. I think Lee Anderson is very, very attractive right now because he doesn't...
If she loves him, he's a waste of space. That's all we need to know. That's probably one of the great measures of anyone involved in politics or anything. If Katie Hopkins likes them, they're a wrong one.
Care about politics. I don't think he cares about political parties. I actually think he'd be very happy just out on his own, speaking his mind. And that's why many of us do operate outside of political parties. Obviously, in my case, no party would have me. But the reason we're out is there an element where can you not be more effective out there on your own than you can trying to fit into the scam that is politics? You know, I believe democracy is an illusion. None of us have someone to represent us. No one represents us because politics and politicians aren't actually the answer anymore because we're sick of being controlled. That's a separate thing. Now,
yeah, because they only serve you.
Inside of Reform. And Reform don't necessarily know it right now, or they certainly aren't speaking about it, but they know it in their hearts, if they have them. They know it in their egos, right? There's now a lot of cocks in one place. And I mean that in a chicken coup setting, not a sort of get out your wanger and helicopter Willie, although that probably does go on quite a bit with Richard Tice and Isabel. I'm just saying. There's a lot of cocks in one place, and there's too many egos. So Farage is happy with Richard Tice because nobody thinks Richard Tice is as good as Farage. He gets called Poundland Nigel. Nigel would have loved that. He would have eaten that for breakfast because Nigel does not like to share the limelight with anybody but his own reflection. That isn't a criticism, it's an observation. He's not good at sharing. I don't know, was he an only child? I'm assuming he was. He wouldn't have been good at sharing his toys as a kid. Certainly wasn't good at sharing a stage. Which is...
I can't watch this whole thing. I wish these videos had like chapter markers in them, but she's just waffling about the same thing for 20 minutes, I guess. I'll flick through a bit.
He said reform was too good for Lee Anderson, and he saw himself as a key player, and now he's being knocked backwards for Lee. So there will be tensions and issues, and you will start to see those come out at reform, and that's going on right now. And then there's this last point, which is the key kind of area where I have real knowledge. Is what happened.
There's an area where she has real knowledge.
Is making the point or connection or spending the time to think about is that UKIP used to be around under Gerard Batten, the most glorious man, the sweetest soul you ever could meet, and someone who was so not about self. In fact, possibly the only man I've ever met in politics who was never ever about himself, low-key, and I was on the campaign bus for UKIP with Gerard because I really loved that guy because he was kind and sweet, and people
I get to your
would
point.
be extremist or right-wing extremist or cut off anything that would be extremist or right-wing, and he had to be seen to be doing it. He could be like, now, there were some troublesome elements before in UKIP, and of course we've disassociated with that. We're moving. They were racists, they were skinheads, they were beer swilling, lager drinking racists. We've cut them off. He threw what was the 14%, 18% support that UKIP had. He threw all that under the bus in order to clean house.
She literally just, I know she's like going by what it's labelled as, but that's what it is, right? What she just said, he threw all the racists under the bus because they had a whole 18% of racists voting for them and supporting them. And she's mad that he honestly said what it is and threw him under the bus. Wow.
To be able to get media attention to make Brexit Party a success, and his system worked. You can't criticise the media play that he had. You can if you're someone that knew Gerard or knows UKIP members or cares about ordinary people. You can say it was so duplicitous to throw all that support under the bus in order to launder your image sufficiently that you could move forward with Brexit Party. And you'll know that then Brexit Party became Reform, because it needed to change its name to be relevant for the next battle, the next headlines, the next media challenge, right? It's why Reform talk about winning the air war. You know, how many headlines did they get? How many clicks? How many views? Which is all a bit tawdry because most people are out there trying to work out how to afford cereal or butter. Anyway, so the very interesting thing that nobody else is recognising is that UKIP supporters know Nigel Farage threw them under the bus. It's why for a long time 25 million British people plus have not had a political home. And at a time when there's
like most regular people have never had a political home. You know what I'm saying? Like creating one political home for only white racist people is not the answer to that.
No home, you have to choose one. It's like if there's two candidates, right? Biden or Trump, which one are you going to choose? You can't say, well, I hate both. I mean, you can. But if you're going to vote, you're going to have to pick. So at a time when people don't have a political home, they go to Reform because it's the only alternative that makes some kind of sense. Maybe they like Lee. Maybe they like and respect that Farage has been saying about London and Sadiq Khan for, well, I was persecuted 15 years ago for starting to talk about this and directly saying it in my columns and on Mainstream. But now you have Lee Anderson saying that London is controlled by Islamists, which is exactly the stuff that Nigel Farage needed to launder out of Brexit Party for him to move on with Brexit Party and say...
So she's saying the extreme racism is coming back, right? She's happy that someone has come along who's going to bring back the extreme racism into the party.
Oh, no, we don't have any more far right with us because, look, they're all over there now because I'm not having anything to do with them. Now you have Lee Anderson bringing exactly the kind of points that we were sensibly making in UKIP and I was sensibly making 15 years ago. And I can
She said, sensibly making. So, Lee Anderson is bringing back extreme racism to a political party, and she's excited about it.
feel this conflict coming. And, a couple of solid examples for you. One, Suzanne Evans. If you don't know Suzanne, she's glorious, she's fun, she's smart, she worked her way up, she's great to be around, she's brilliant with ordinary people, she's brilliant with her words. She's a very, very lovely lady. And, I'm not anyone to judge anyone, obviously. I'm just saying that I've met her and she's brilliant. Nigel Farage could not bear Suzanne Evans getting media time, headlines, people liking her, people actually warming to her, people finding actually that Suzanne, who was brought up, I believe, without anything, and forgive me, Suzanne, if I'm misspeaking, but brought up, like the rest of us, a very ordinary person, excuse me. Nigel didn't like that Suzanne was so popular, that she could have been the leader. So he fired her out of UKIP for disloyalty. Because of the point I mentioned earlier about not being able to share a stage. Suzanne Evans is glorious. She would have been a glorious addition. Was the desperation of will go forwards with reform. It's why people can't categorically trust it now, because many UKIPers know what I know. People like Suzanne Evans and her supporters know what I know. We know what we know about Richard Tice, and we know it's not authentic. We know it's not from the gut, and we see full circle coming with Lee Anderson. So that's just some of the stuff that's happening, and then that's before we get on to the idea that when it was the Brexit Party and they had a full list of candidates standing up and down the country, come and be a candidate, apply to be a candidate, join us, here's our roster. Nigel then let that roster fall when he did his deal with Boris Johnson. And many of those people who agreed to stand as Brexit Party candidates weren't even informed until they heard it on the news. Hand. And I guess in the final thought is when people are kind enough to ask, why don't I go into politics, or have I ever thought about standing? Well, of course. But honestly, I say to people, look, I'm an arsehole, but I'm just not that big an arsehole. Because honestly, politics is so duplicitous. It's so ego-driven. There's so much willy-waving and then backstabbing. I, at 49, have neither the patience nor tolerance nor...
As if your entire platform and life and everything you do isn't the same, and your entire career is based on politics and rallying up the same kind of people. So, whatever, man. Katie Hopkins is full of shit. Let's just keep it 100%. This video was boring as hell. She was interesting to react to when we had all that stuff going on with the festival. She was getting booked out because it was interesting that she's been put in a hip hop space and chatting all this cancel culture rubbish. But that was interesting on the level of, okay, I've just learned a few things about what's going on with reform. Get out of here, Katie. We've had enough of you.